I do think that we have seen new areas of barriers being experienced by women and their capacity to step forward for leadership roles. I think that some of that is around increased domestic labour and around increased, particularly the affective labour or the cognitive labour, the brain space of domestic organisation. But I also think that we've seen women step forward in new leadership roles that appear to the community in new ways. So I think that, for example, in South Australia, Nicola Spurrier's leadership, but also other health officers and professionals in other locations. I think that shows different forms of leadership that is available to women, that is respected despite some of the problems with respect for those roles and those women in those roles. I do think that is a good example of new forms of leadership that are available for women that are outside of the traditional political roles, but are at the highest levels of leadership and advice and advocacy. So I think that we can think about how we receive women's experience at a social and community level as well as at individual levels. So that is about things like the Believe Her campaigns, and how we accept women's evidence of their experience, both at the social level, but also at the political level, at the professional level. I think that we need to make sure that we're believing women in significant ways, and I think that there's a lot to overcome in that role. In order to achieve that, we need to think about how we understand evidence and testimony at that personal level and at that professional level, and what biases we as individuals and as communities have in receiving testimony and experience as an evidence, and then what we do with that and how we act on that. But I think that what we've seen over the last few decades, has led to different ways of receiving that evidence, and then what we've seen over the last year has really made it apparent that how we receive women's experience as individuals and as professionals needs to be overhauled. And so I think that the time is right now for formalising some of those changed processes. But we've got to do a lot of work. I also think that social media plays a large role here. I think that we're beginning to see how women experience vitriol and abuse in social media spaces differently from men, and how people of colour experience vitriol in social media spaces differently than white cis men. And so that I see that as a groundswell of awareness, and I thank and honour the people that take that abuse that's offered through social media and don't hide or shy away from it, and who, through no doubt massive hits to their own mental well-being, continue to educate the community about the effects of standing forward in those spaces and what toll that it has on them. So I think that that's another area where we are seeing the effects of being heard and understanding how it builds up to something, but also taking the benefit from that to understand experience in a different way.